Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for another tank review, and today we are reviewing the latest Tech 3 line that was released yesterday, and we'll be reviewing the tier 9 version of this line. This is the first dual barrel Tech 3 line that has been introduced into the game. It's a new mechanic and also, safe to say, one of the most awaited mechanic, as it was delayed for at least 2 years, if I remember correctly, or along the lines. And it's a really interesting mechanic, and it behaves like auto reloaders, but we could never really enjoy our auto reloaders on console because they were severely butchered in terms of DPM. But that is not the case with these tanks, along with having additional benefit as well. So I played the tier 10 as well as the tier 9, and I would say tier 9, tier for tier, is probably better and more enjoyable, and one of the reasons for that is it is more mobile. You can get to positions quickly, as well as it fire premium APCR, so you don't have to worry about switching between standard and premium, as you can just fire premium. You will probably not make any money, but that's not the concern for me or experienced player who has been playing the game for a while. So why do I like this tank? Well, before we get to that, let's talk about the mechanic. So we did get two premium tanks earlier, a tier 8 and a tier 9, that also use this mechanic. So basically you have two guns. As soon as you fire the first gun, the second gun is reloading. Sorry, when you fire the first gun, it starts reloading right away, but you don't have to wait for the reload to complete, as you can fire the second gun and your reload doesn't stop. And that's why I was saying they're like the auto reloaders, or two-shot auto reloaders, but with good DPM. That's how auto reloaders were supposed to be, but our auto reloaders were heavily nerfed. In addition to that, you can also fire both the guns at the same time, and that is a huge advantage. Early game, mid game, end game. Early game, when you're trying to farm across, as you might only get one opportunity, your alpha goes from 390 to 780. Similarly, for example, I'm peeking corner in here and I want to trade and win the trade, and just switch to double barrel, and I can hit them for 780. And during late game, when also you want to minimize your exposure, essentially bigger alpha at times, not at times, but bigger alpha means you have to expose less, and especially when you know you can finish a tank, you would go for that option, and that is very beneficial. So, but there is a drawback. When you're firing both guns at the same time, the DPM is less as compared to when you're firing one barrel at a time, as there's no delay. When you fire both the guns at the same time, there's a around 3 second delay where the shells do not reload, and you are at a disadvantage. So whenever you're fighting, let's say you are hull down and you are doing 1v1ing another tank, you go with a single shot as to maximize your DPM. And once that tank is killable, or once you can finish that tank and will not be in a battle for a while, you can switch your double barrel or dual shot and then finish that tank. Another thing to notice, unlike most Russian tanks, this tank actually has gun depression, or the entire line, I would say. Instead of having the 5 or 6 gun depression, they have 8, so you can play hull down. Just imagine playing a tank which is hull down, and you can switch between 390 alpha or 780 alpha, which is the alpha in this case, or for tier 10 you can just have 440 or 880, and that is huge. That is, for tier 10, that's basically more alpha than E4. But these tanks, they do have their drawbacks. They do not have the best pen. Even the tier 10 only has 310, and this one has 292, which I would say is below average pen. However, you can still pen the weak spots frontally of most same tier or tier 10 tanks as well. You definitely really have to. It does not guarantee a pen. You might still bounce here and there when your pen drops. But whenever I'm playing dual barrel tanks, it is a huge relief for me when the premium is APCR, as I don't have to switch between shells mid-game. And that's the problem I had when I was playing the tier 8 premium, that I would start off with the standard shells, AP or APCR, whatever they had, And then when I needed more pen, I had to switch to heat. And basically it was very confusing, as I had to switch to the first gun, then I had to go to the second gun and switch in there. And while I'm switching, I'm not really reloading any shells. And I do not suffer from that drawback in tier 9. And that is why I was saying this is probably the best tier 4 tier dual barrel tank. We did get another T-54 TS, and that was a really bad tank, especially when you compare it to this one. So in this game, as you can see, I was top tier. I was able to, when I was fighting the M103, I was able to use my single shotgun and farm them. But whenever I had to peek, I used the dual barrel mechanic, and it worked really well for me. This was a small map. I wasn't able to use my gun depression, as we were basically fighting corners, but I was able to use the mechanic pretty effectively to make the best out of it. This tank also, it doesn't have the best armor. Your hull can be penned very easily. However, your turret is reliable, or semi-reliable at least, if they're firing standard rounds, and as long as they're not tank destroyers. And since it has 8 degrees of gun depression, you can easily go hull down and be very effective in this tank. So in this game, I did 6,600 damage, 3 kills. Ruinberg, it was a small map. And now we'll go to the next replay and go over the voiceover for that one. So again, top tier. I was trying to get into a tier 10 game as well to show how it plays, but I wasn't able to capture a decent enough game. So we'll go for this. The second map, this is a bit different. It's a bigger map compared to Ruinberg. This is at 1200 by 1200. So where you can really use your mobility to relocate, as well as this map has ridges, and I was able to use gun depression effectively. The game just started. I am going to the G7 position. It is pretty effective for early game farming, early farming for cross farming. It's a good spot. I'm going over there, and you will see how this tank has benefits when it comes to farming cross, because we do have auto loaders, but that will still take 2 seconds at least to fire the second shell, and sometimes the window is gone between those between that time, because it takes like a second or two to aim your first shot, and then another 2 seconds to fire the second shot, and by that time enemy might have crossed the opening. But that is not the case. However, you still have to kind of keep in mind there are 2 guns, and even if you can see the target, you might not be, only one of the shells might pen, because one of your guns is being blocked by a ridge or obstruction. So you have to be very careful while aiming that none of your guns are being blocked. So we see Sturmpanzer, and that's what I was saying. He was about to make a cross. We had a slight opening and managed to do 779. No other tank or heavy tank can do that. So it's a tier 9 with 780 alpha, and I think the tier, at least the premium, also has the 780 alpha, which is huge when you're top tier. Our tier 8 faces tier 10 quite often and not really that fun. But tier 9, you can still compete against tier 10s. And again, I peeked, I saw an opening. I know I won't get a chance to fire more than twice for a while, and wanted to limit my exposure, so went with the dual barrel approach and another 800 roll into another dual barrel tank. I do see, as you can see, I'm overexposing it. I'm not overexposing, I'm able to use that rock in front of me both time I peeked, and the gun depression really came in handy. Again, I switched to dual barrel as he was retreating, and since I'm not in active engagement, I am sniping, and having premium shells does allow me to do that very effectively. So I know I'll be out of the battle, and even if I have to wait for a while, it's not an issue. So when with the dual barrel approach, at this time the Foch started pushing, and I already have a shell loaded. I didn't want to wait for the second one, as I knew I can pen him, and that my shell will be reloaded when I fire, as soon as I fire. And I was able to pen Foch twice as well. And I said, when you see someone in the open, just go with this single shot approach to maximize your DPM, because it doesn't have that shell delay we get when we fire dual barrel, as well as if someone is in the open, he can't really get in cover, so you have the time you need to get 2 or 3 or even 4 shots into the opponent. So at this point I realized that we have lost the 1, 2, 3 line, decided to rotate back to help our teammate that is guarding K4, only one guarding the base. While going towards the base, I see T42 crossing and switch to single shot because I know I won't be able to pen him, and I didn't want to be out of the game in case I get pushed because I'm kind of in the middle, and that's the benefit you get with auto reloaders, because as I fired, the shell started reloading immediately. I'm trying to get into position to help our tank destroyer, but I ended up being in a terrible cross, and this is where you'll see how I was able to use this single shot and basically farm those tanks. So 39 is coming in. I put a shot on him. I know he can't really kill me even if he rushes the shell. While the shell is reloading, I managed to fire the second shell, and now the first gun is almost reloaded. Udis thought he could, well, actually he can't really push me. Put a shot into Udis, and as you can see, the DPM on these tanks when you're firing single is just insane, because usually your engagement lasts between 4 or 5 or 6 shells, right? And in this case, if you maximize it, so the full health Charlie Magnet, he penned me once. Okay, so we traded the first shot, then I penned him again. Charlie Magnet does have a longer reload, but as you can see, I just keep firing gun 1, gun 2, gun 1, and then yeah, that's a tier 8, so it's only a 4 shell engagement, and he's out. He was only able to fire at me once. He does have a longer reload, but even in other cases, because there was a ridge, I should have been, I could have easily played safe and finished that tank without exposing myself, unless he overexposes. Finally going towards the base, do get IS-2 spotted. I actually made a mistake because I thought it's an IS-3, basically a full health tier 9, so I was being a little cautious. But once I do realize that it's a tier 8, I can just easily out DPM him as well. Even though we both are having the dual barrel mechanic, I just have better reload as well as better armor as well. Since it's day 1, most of the players that are playing IS-2 are also playing with the stock gun, so I wasn't really worried about it. And our teammate came to the rescue to help with the kill. So all in all, definitely a recommendable. I would recommend to grind this line because new mechanic, it is how the auto reloaders should have been with a decent amount of DPM, but they didn't. So while you're playing dual barrel, don't think about playing as a dual barrel, but also think you can enjoy the gameplay of auto reloaders. So I did free XP the entire line, but when you should be able to grind it as well in a week, and I'm certain you will enjoy this line as well. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one.